Dey Mansions, a historic building with a rich history, is one of the most interesting sites in Passaic County, New Jersey. Built by Colonel Thenis back in the 1700s, it now serves as a museum for all the public to see with guided tours from Wednesday through Sunday. Located on Total Road in Wayne, this landmark as once headquarters to George Washington and his men. The mansion itself is known for its rich history during the time of the Revolutionary War. Being there takes you back in time with historic artifacts, paintings, and display. Jessica Bush, a museum educator, describes the origin of the fascinating place.
In the 1700s, there was a gentleman named Dirk Dey. He was a Dutch-born planter. He came over and purchased about 600 acres in Preakness Valley. And when he died in 1764, he left the home and the land to his son, Tunis Dey. So Tunis and his wife, Hester, actually built the structure that we still have today. Back then it was called Bloomsbury Manor. It wasn't called the Dey Mansion until it became part of the Parks Department in the 1900s. So Tunis Dey, I just told you about Tunis, and his wife Hester owned that home. They lived there with 10 children. They had 10 children, 8 of whom survived into adulthood. So in the beginning of the 1700s, or 1770s, there was some stuff happening in this country between the colonists and England. And as the war sort of was looming, the American Revolution was looming, Tunis became the colonel of the Bergen County Militia. So in 1770s, Preakness Valley was actually part of Bergen County. There was no such thing as Passaic County yet. So he was the colonel of the militia here that were armed, ready to fight against England. And they were a pretty well-known militia. They did a pretty decent job of holding off the English. At the beginning of the war, Manhattan is taken, first battle of the war, Manhattan is taken by the British, and they had a stronghold on most of the area for the entirety of the war. So in this area being so close to New York City, the Bergen County Militia did a pretty good job of keeping the British out. As George Washington was coming out of their encampment in Morristown, it was a really awful winter in Morristown, and they were coming out of their encampment, Tunis Dey offered up his home to Washington and his men so that he could use it as his headquarters in this area. So from July, and then again in October and November of 1780, George Washington used the Dey home as his headquarters. As we look back on the history of the mansion now, we see that that was pretty much its most important time in history as Washington's headquarters. And we host so many public events just about every weekend during the month. Of every month of the year, there's something going on either at the Dey Mansion or at one of the other parks within the county related to our department.
Dey Mansion, not only a place for education, but entertainment for all ages.
Each of the rooms obviously has its own significance. Washington's office was also used as his meeting room and his dining room, and he would host people there. So I think that's where like the liveliest, the history of Washington at his liveliest is, definitely in that room. The war room, it's also called the aide-de-camp room, so that's where his right-hand men were working. They were strategizing, they were helping to write correspondences, so it was a pretty intense space. It was also used as their sleeping quarters. So if you're sort of more into like the life of the soldier or the life of the people who were working under Washington, then that would definitely be your favorite part of the home. Now the sleeping quarters are really interesting, and I think, so for people who are just only interested in the Washington story there, his bedroom might not be the most exciting place of them all, but if you're interested in sort of how life was during colonial times, like how people lived, then that probably is the most interesting place to be, because you see things like the chamber pot. There were no indoor plumbing, no bathrooms, so people had to use different means of using the bathroom. The chamber pot is definitely one of them. And there are some other interesting objects throughout the room. The fireplace was a really important part of the home. It kept you warm during the winter time. So there are objects that go along with the fireplace that people today wouldn't necessarily need in their daily lives, but were really pretty crucial to a colonial person's life.
Dey Mansion is full of rooms that show life in the colonial times, and the hallways echo the history planted long ago within the building. Please come and visit whenever you are in the area. Admission fee is only $5 per adult, $4 per senior citizen, and $3 per child. We look forward to seeing you and can't wait to expand your knowledge on this amazing museum.